أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. My dear brothers and sisters, I greet you all with the greeting of Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Our topic today will be around lusts and desires. Lust and desires, the inner needs that we have in ourselves. The Creator Almighty has created us in such a way that we will have needs, we will have desires, we will have lusts. And there is wisdom behind all of these things that we have in our hearts. And we will speak about those wisdoms and why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in our hearts those kind of things. Is it something positive? Is it something negative? Is it something that benefits the humanity, or has it been put to deviate them from the right path? So this is what we will be talking about in this talk. The love of things, the love of our own selves, the love of the wealth, the love of the other sex, love of animals, love of this world has been put in our heart. It is something that is close to our souls. So what is the reason that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put those in our hearts? Why do we have this, what we call in Arabic, shahawat or raghabat? Why do we have the love to those shahawat, to love of those desires in our heart? This will be the talk that will be, our talk will be going around this point, inshallah ta'ala. So we try to highlight, because when we look at those shahawat, we always think of them in the negative sense. But have they been put as a negative sense for us, or there is another wisdom behind it? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us in this world, and He created the whole universe for us, actually. He says, وَسَخَّرَ لَكُم مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. وَسَخَّرَ لَكُم مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. And even the heavens, He has created them for us. So lakum there has two connotations. One connotation is that He has created this universe, that we will ponder upon it, think about it, and it will lead us that there is a creator. So we will acknowledge the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is one side of the coin, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created all of this so that we can guide ourselves through those miracles and through this power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala towards Him, and compare ourselves that we are so minute in comparison with this world. So how would be the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself in comparison to the universe that He has created? So one is to lead us through this world. We can lead ourselves and guide us towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty Creator of everything, including ourselves. Another connotation for sakhara lakum is that we actually utilize what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created in this universe for our own benefit. So everything has been created for our benefits. The earth has been created for our benefit. The moon has been created for our benefit. The sun has been created for our benefit. The oceans have been created for our benefits. The animals have been created for our benefits. So all of those are for our benefit. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, in one sense, they are guiding us that there is a magnificent creator behind all of this. And on one sense, that we need to utilize all of this for our own usage and utilize it for our own benefits and advantage. So this is one thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created all of this universe for us. Then He has created the intellect that we have. So without the intellect, we cannot really ponder upon all of those things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. So He has given us the brain, He has given us the heart to ponder upon those things, utilizing this ability that is internal ability that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, again to guide us and think about the things that Allah has created. So He has given us an inner ability actually to guide us. But in addition to all of that, although He has created the universe in such a magnificent way, although He has given us the brain and the intellect, the soul and so on, in addition to that, He also gave us a guidance that comes through His revelations, through the prophets of Allah, through the books of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us so that we don't have an excuse, لِكَيْ لَا يَكُونَ لِلنَّاسِ عَلَى اللَّهِ حُجَّةً يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ, so that nobody will come on the day of judgment and they will have an argument against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, oh Allah, you did not really guide me. So He has put all those means of guidance for us, and for us to follow those means of guidance actually so that we can go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and acknowledge Him, recognize Him and believe in Him, have faith in Him and obey for the purpose that He has created us on this life. Now, for the life to continue on this earth, Allah has made things that will make it continue. Allah have made things that will make it continue. And one of those things is actually this love and desires and the lust that we have in ourselves. So imagine if you did not have the love for wealth, for example. If you did not have that need to fulfill your hunger, the feeling of hunger, if you didn't have that need and desire, would you do any work? You will just sit back lazy because you don't have the desire actually to get more wealth. You don't have the desire to go and work. So that desire has been put by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so that people, they go and have the energy because this is something that they are going to utilize. They are going to use. So that is why that lust is there. So the love of wealth, the love of mal which is there, it is for purpose. And that purpose is a positive purpose. It's not a negative purpose as people sometimes think. So it is a positive purpose that without this lust and need and desire, we will not do any work. And on the other side, when it comes to sexual desires, for example, it is also in the same connotation that it has been put there so that the life on earth continues. Imagine if we did not have attraction to the other sex. If we didn't have the attraction to the other sex, then we will not have the desire to meet with them, and the life on earth will not prolong. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put this attraction and this desire and this lust in us so that we have the attractions to the other sex and we mate with them and we prolong the life on earth. We prolong the life on earth. So this desire has been put for a purpose there. So we have the need of feeding our bodies with food and nourishment, and we have also the need to fulfill our desires and lust, the spiritual lust and desires that we also need to fulfill them. Now there are two options that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made, and this is where the freedom of choice comes. In all of those aspects, the freedom of choice comes. So first of all, the acknowledging of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala itself is a choice that is given to us. We need to ponder upon it and come up that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala indeed is the creator and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the way that He has ordered us to do. When it comes to the wealth and acquiring of the wealth, also we have a freedom of choice. We can go in the lawful means and acquire that wealth in the ways that has been made lawful for us, halal for us, or we can go in the ways that are actually unlawful for us. Some of these we might get the advantages in life, and some of them we might even get the disadvantages in this life. But the consequences of our choice will come in the hereafter, no doubt. No doubt, if we manage to escape, if we have taken the unlawful route and we manage to escape in this world, there is no escape in the hereafter from the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we take the wrong choices. And when it comes to the sexual desires as well, we can fulfill them in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed it for us, or we can fulfill them in other ways as well, which are open to us in this world, but then we have to follow the consequences of what we have selected for ourselves. So the doors are open for us, and this is where we are different from the animals, because that intellect is given to us, that universe is being created for us, and this explanation is also given to us through the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the revelations that have come to us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the books of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are guiding us that this lust and desires is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created for two reasons. One is that we elevate ourselves from the status of being animals to become the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted us to be. So our status will increase in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we become thankful for the lawful means that He has given us. We utilize them to fulfill our needs and desires. We fulfill them, and then it's not only that we are fulfilling our desires when we are doing that in the lawful ways, we are actually getting the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for doing that. But there is also another option that you can fulfill your desires in the unlawful ways. So you might fulfill them, but then this is unlawful way, and you will get the sin has been committed, and the punishment will be as a consequence of that. So the doors are open for us, and the choice is ours. Now, it is very easy for a person to say that all those are restrictions, and indeed they are restrictions. They are laws that have been put for our own benefit. Let me ask you a question. When a person is at university or school, what is easier, to fail or to pass? What is easier? To fail is easier? What is easier? No. Failing or passing is easier? Passing is easier. You don't need to work hard for passing. Do you need to work hard for failing? What do you think? To fail is easier? Do you agree? No, you don't agree? For fail, you need to work hard to fail. And for passing? Excellent. Excellent. Good. So if you want to just pass, you don't need to really work hard. You don't need to work at all as well. You don't do your homework, you don't attend the classes, you don't do anything, and you will pass. Excellent. Very good. Very good. So they don't have the desires, but they have other desire that is actually keeping them away. They want to have a relaxed life. They want to enjoy the moment that they are living in. They want to just sit and watch TV or something. Yeah. So it's much easier option. So failing is a much easier option. You just sit and do nothing, basically. And so is the case in this life. This life is a test. Yeah. If you want to pass the life, then you need to work for it. You need to strive. وَجَاهِدُوا فِي اللَّهِ حَقَّ جِهَادِهِ. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that if you want to go towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you need to work on that. You need to work on the heart, because these desires, the nafs that we have, actually will have the inclination to do the bad things. It will have the inclination to bad things. And when a person controls that nafs and controls the desires, then he succeeds, whether it's be for the worldly exams or for the hereafter exam. So it's exactly the same. If you want to get good grades in your class or in your year or in your final degree, then you really need to work hard to get that best grades. Yeah, and the more efforts that you put, the better will be the results you will be getting. But if you want to fail, you just sit back and do nothing. Yeah, or do something that you really enjoy, obstructing you from your objective. Your objective is to pass with high marks, and that is the objective that you have set for yourself, but you are not really doing the things that will lead you to that objective. So the exam of the hereafter is very much similar. Now we are put here as a test, and these are the different parameters of the exam. So controlling ourselves, controlling the desires that we have is is actually part of that example. So the person who controls the desires, the person who controls his shahawat, in one sense, he's getting the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he is also fulfilling these desires in the ways that has been made lawful from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So indeed, a person feels that these are restrictions. Yes, but that's part of life as well. When you are at school, you have to do the homeworks, you have to attend the classes, you have to. So these are the minor example that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us through this life, and that is in comparison to what we have in the hereafter. It is very easy for a person, for example, he sees his friends going to the cinema, watching all these things, enjoying their time and so on, and then he says, why should I put myself in difficult life and not enjoy the things that my colleagues are doing, my friends are doing as well? But he thinks of the objective that he has put forward. Prophet ﷺ says, "Ala inna sil'at Allahi ghaliya, ala inna sil'at Allahi al-jannah." Verily, the goods of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is precious, is expensive. It's not something easy to be gained. You need to work for it, you need to strive for it. And the goods of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-jannah. So working for that and having that as an objective will actually make you safeguard yourself from the wrong desires, self-desires, and fulfill them in the rightful ways. These desires, as we said, a person needs to fulfill them, and the two options are in front of him to fulfill them in the ways that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has want us to fulfill them. The example of the difficulty, the scholars have given us actually the example that it is very easy. For example, if you want to bring a rock from an uphill to a downhill position, all what you do is you push it and it will come down by itself. But the same rock, if you want to take it in the other direction, you will really need to work hard to take it to that position. So that is the example of the life as well, that we need to work hard in this life to fulfill those desires. A person might feel there are difficulties in some of the commandments that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. It is very difficult, especially nowadays. For example, if we take the Fajr prayer, the adhan is at 4:20. The outside is very hot. A person is sleeping nicely in the air-conditioned room, in his cozy bed, and so on. And the adhan is being called at 4:20. He's having difficulty to stand up and go for the prayers. That is a difficulty indeed, that the soul will push you that, okay, leave it today. You will wake up tomorrow, and so on. So if the person falls in that trap, then every day will be the same situation and he will not really succeed. So there is a restriction. There is some kind of difficulty that a person feels, but if he puts the objective in his mind, then he can wake up easily and he will do that easily. When it comes to fasting, for example, a person sees in front of him all these delicious dishes, all this food and so on, but he is refraining himself from eating and drinking for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, obeying and also putting the reward of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his mind. So when he puts the reward of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his mind, the fasting becomes easy for him and he is able to succeed in that. Increasing the wealth has many ways, and a person sees an opportunity has come in front of him. He can get it and he will become really wealthy if he does this step, but he realizes that this is actually not something halal, is taking it from haram. So shall I take this step forward or not? So he refrains from getting all that wealth just because he knows that this is not a lawful way or lawful mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it lawful for me. So he stops and refrains from that, and he gets the reward for that reference. So yes, there is difficulty in doing that, but a person has to strive against himself to do that. On the sexual side, yes, things are easy in front of him. He can go and fulfill his desires, but he stops himself from doing that, and he actually stops and goes and do it in the legal ways that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has also made easy for the human being in this life to follow. So all those options are in front of the person, but he still controls himself and follows the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, the religion could be having difficulties, but when a person fills his heart with the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and with the belief in the hereafter, then all of those things becomes easy. And that's why when we see the description of the believers, the attributes of the believers, the first among those attributes is al-iman bil-ghayb. If we read in Surah Al-Baqarah, Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. The first one among them, who are the muttaqeen? الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. So they remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they believe in the unseen, they believe that there will be a life after this life, and this life is short. So when a person has that belief, he sacrifices things and he strives himself on the things. Again, I come back to the example of the exam in this world. When a person knows that after getting this degree with this high marks and so on, his life will become easier, he will get a good job, he will have a better income and so on. So he works hard now so that he passes in that exam with the best of the marks and he gets that income. And it's exactly the same case with the believer. When he is in a situation of an exam in this life, he realizes that there is something that unseen today, al-iman bil-ghayb, the belief in the unseen, that will lead him in the future actually to have the success in the hereafter. So he works hard on that and he passes that. So he does what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordered him to do, and he refrains from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden him to refrain from. So he does it in that way and he passes that exam. So that is the exams. In the same way, when a person is now working, he works with sincerity. He puts all his efforts in the work because he knows that for this work he's gaining that money. And that money, even if your supervisor doesn't see you whether you are working or not, even if nobody from your colleagues are seeing you, but you know inside your heart that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching. So he does his duty as per what he has agreed in the contract, and he fulfills that requirement so that when he gets the salary at the end of the month, he knows that he is getting it actually in the lawful ways, and he's working in the ways that he has signed the agreement that he will be doing this job. So none of the haram income comes into his body, none of the haram income comes into his house, none of the haram income comes to his family. So on one side, he has the patience against what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made unlawful, and on the other side, he strives hard in the ways that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed, in the ways of getting the meaningful things or the lawful things. So these desires that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in us, they are not negative things. They are actually for our life to prolong so that we enjoy our life and we continue in this life in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed for us. So this is the talk of today, the lesson of today. Sorry to make it short, but it is, I think, an important aspect that we need to know about the lust and desires. A lot of people have the connotation that lust and desires are always negative aspect, but actually there is a positive connotation to those lust and desires. So if you have any comments, questions, the floor is open for you to participate. Yes. Loving wealth, yes. Mm. Yes, it is a very important aspect that we believe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed for each person the sustenance that he is going to have in this on this earth. The risk of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for each individual has been prescribed. So no matter how much wealth we get in our balances, what we are going to utilize out of that is only what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written for us. Even if we have high bank balances and we don't know where they are coming from actually, but whatever has been prescribed for us to eat, we are going to eat that only. Yeah. Although we might have the huge dish in front of us, but what will fulfill our heart, what is prescribed for us. And maybe I have mentioned more than once this example that my neighbors in my previous home, they were from hierarchy people, some of them ex-ministers and wealthy people, elderly now. So all their life they have been accumulating wealth and so on. But when I used to see who is driving these nice Porsche cars, driving the Porsche cars out of their palaces and so on, it's not them. They were only on wheelchair and they will come out maybe once or twice a month or 3-4 months only. But who were utilizing those Porsche cars is the drivers. So I used to ponder, subhanallah, although the driver actually doesn't have the car under his name, but it is for him to actually take advantage and enjoy being in the car and driving it. For him, it is written that in this life, he is the one who is going to enjoy this car, so he's enjoying that car. The food they're eating, they're cooking a lot of different dishes and so on, but this particular person who accumulated all that wealth is not allowed to eat anything apart from soup and some vegetables and so on, and the rest of the food who is eating, for whom it has been prescribed actually. So the risk of the human being is prescribed, although he might have in his kitchen a lot of things, but he will eat only what has been written for him to eat, and this will be all over the different matters as well. So the wealth is only one part of that. So thanks, sister, for raising that point. Yes.
Question is, has the devil has any role in tempting the science?
Definitely. That's his role. So the first objective of shaitan is to mask us from seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the creation. استحوذ عليهم الشيطان فأنساهم ذكر الله. So the forgetting the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the first objective of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Started, I think, brother, you missed the beginning, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created whole of this universe so that we ponder upon it and it will guide us to the creator. And the first task of shaitan is actually to make us forget or put a barrier between seeing Allah in the creation that he has created. So when we see the beautiful sky, how is it actually risen above our heads and is there without pillars and so on, we don't say, subhanallah, how beautiful it is and how it is standing, how beautiful is the creator. So we don't link it. It's just like when you have a delicious food, oh, this is really nice and delicious, and you start eating, forgetting the person who has really cooked that dish. Not only the person who has cooked, but who has been behind the source of this material that was cooked itself, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we forget the person who has cooked, we forget also the one who has been behind this food that we are eating and the drink that we are drinking. So the first objective of shaitan is to put that barrier. Then he starts tempting us to go into the wrong direction. So we said that we can fulfill our desires in the lawful ways, and this lawful way is easy actually to follow. to fulfill our needs and desires. The easy way is there as well, but Shaitan beautifies the ways that which are not lawful for us. So we try to capture the wealth that doesn't really belong to us. We capture by stealing or robbing, taking bribery, and so on. So he makes all those things. He beautifies them to our souls and ourselves, and until we become following that trap one after the other. So when I spoke about rising or waking up for the Fajr prayer, for example, in a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned that every time a person sleeps, the shaitan, he ties three nodes on the head of that person who is sleeping. So the first time he comes and he's trying to wake up, Shaitan will come. No, it is still a very long night. You keep on sleeping. Outside is very hot. Where you will go? It is very early now in the morning, 4 o'clock. He tries to tempt him to actually sleep and continue sleeping at the time. So if a person wakes up, the first node is untied now, if he wakes up from the sleep. Then he starts again to relax him, make him lazy and so on. But if he wakes up from the bed and goes towards making wudu and so on, so the second node is now undone. And when he makes the wudu and so on, that's it. He's fresh now, and the third node has been also undone. So he goes to the prayers. Once he comes out of the prayer, then he will feel that he is really fresh. And this is what people who practice the Fajr prayer, they actually feel that. People who practice the Fajr prayers, even in these days where we have short period of time to sleep at night, you still feel fresh after the prayers if you have gone through those steps, having in the back of your mind this reality. So indeed, Shaitan definitely is there to tempt us to fulfill our desires in the wrong ways, although we have the lawful ways open for us to fulfill as well.
Can I make a comment?
Related to the topic, yes. Not related, no.
It's going to be the comment. You said God will test us.
Yes.
Yeah. Can I make a comment on that?
Go ahead.
Okay. I don't think God will test me because when I test something, that means I don't know what the outcome of.
That's not correct.
Well, okay. Why do I test then? Why do I test this? We say I test this so I can find out what's the outcome because I don't know what's the outcome. God would not test me because He knows the outcome, what I'm going to do.
Yes.
But actually, He's thrown at me the psychological fields that's in every human.
Okay.
And He's treating that, but it's not testing me.
Yeah, for God maybe it's not test, but for us it's test.
Yeah, good. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
The choice is the thing that sometimes it takes a lot of effort to make a choice that is against your desires or whatever you want to fulfill.
Yes.
That is the jihad.
Yes, indeed.
It's not taking the easy route. Yeah, the test is not for God. The test is for us. What kind of choice we're going to make at the end of the day.
Yes.
In terms of desires, there is that element of sexual desires, and then there is this element of like someone needing to feel protected and loved and this, and probably I don't know if in terms of the gender, if they are seeking the same, yes, the marriage will bring them together, but sometimes maybe one gender is taking advantage of the other because maybe the female they are more towards love and stuff like that. So maybe they take that advantage that I will show her that I love her and this, so they can fulfill the other desire. And then a lot of women fall into the trap. I see like we have a lot of sisters struggling with that fact. When they become Muslim, to leave all of that, especially before, they already they went through that, having a boyfriend or having, and then when they become a Muslim, they still want that love, and then it's like a barrier now, becoming a Muslim, especially when you are in this country, like you don't have that many people from your own nationality that you can get married to. So maybe receiving some other, I don't know. We find that a lot of sisters, we are having this problem with a lot of sisters.
Indeed, that's not only for those people who just become Muslim, but it's also for the Muslims who are growing and becoming adults and they are not yet married and so on. So they go through this same difficulty and struggle, and this is part of us being here. That how much we will really, what are we filling our heart with the love of? If we have the love of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala and we are filling our hearts with the love of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, then the other things will indeed become easier for us to follow. So this following the commandments of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, obeying Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is part of that belief that we have uttered, that we bear witness that there is no God except Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. And Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we need to follow the guidance which is given to us. And the more we are in the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the easier the task becomes. So we don't have to fulfill these desires. Of course, we need to work on how can we fulfill them in the lawful ways that are given to us in proper marriage. So we need to work towards that direction rather than trying to fulfill the desire in the unlawful way. And that goes for both those who have become new Muslims or those who have been Muslim all their life. It is the same exam that people go through. Indeed, you are right that maybe the life was for those who become Muslim now, the life was totally different, and they have gone through this, so they know and so on, and they want. There is Shaitan is again working so that they fall into that trap again. But for those, the guidance is that cling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make yourself closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that will give you the strength actually to go through this time frame until you get your desires fulfilled in the lawful means. Yes.
Regarding this fulfilling and changing, we can take the example of Rasul Sallallahu
Allah.
He had the task of changing the nation which was far worse than us at the moment. You know, the Meccans, these people, they were known for all the things that they were not lawful that they were doing. And if we follow his principle that he was given by Allah, then we are able to, because first we need, as you say, we need to have the love of Allah first before we try to fulfill the laws. Because Islam is not only laws, do's and don'ts. It is a way of life, and there is wisdom in it. So when we know the wisdom, and people, even the who embrace Islam, as ourselves as well, we are just default Muslims, we still need to learn the wisdom, and knowing that by knowing Allah and knowing the wisdom of Allah and loving Allah, then every task when you do out of love, that task becomes easier.
Indeed.
But when we do as just law, then without knowing the wisdom of it, then it becomes more hard to grasp it.
Indeed.
So as we know that Rasul sallallahu
Allah.
alaihi wasallam, 13 years of his prophethood was not about the law, was about instilling the love and wisdom of Allah. And then after 13 years, then the law was introduced. And if we follow this method, then this, even for ourselves, it is the breaking of the law, accepting of the law becoming easier and with love. Then it's not anything we do with love, the task becomes easier.
Okay, so we come to a close, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم واغفر لنا إنك أنت الغفور الرحيم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا. اللهم إنا نسألك مما سألك نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ونعوذ بك مما استعاذ منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. سبحانك ربنا رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. وجزاكم الله. بارك الله. بارك الله.
هذا المعد، هذا على المعد يجيب مع البروجيكتور.